Hello there, it's Karen here from craftedlittlemисsk.co.uk, and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. I have made this card after seeing a tutorial on YouTube by Jill Chapman, who is also a UK Stampin' Up demonstrator, and she goes under the name of Paper Daisy Crafting. And she made a card very similar to this, but she used a different stamp set in the middle here. The pandas, unfortunately, are retired. This is not what I'm making today, by the way, but I got the idea from making this card. So yes, the pandas are retired. They were earlier in the year, and that was that set there. So if you've got those, you're lucky enough to have those, and that's great. And I also used the Broadway Birthday, which is a current stamp set. So I stamped the bit where it says "You're never too old to make a wish." And then I use gold embossing powder. These little dots here make the dots to cover the wish there. So I did that in gold embossing powder, and I think that looks really nice. And then I just raised these up on dimensionals. The card itself is what we used to be known in the UK, I don't know if it's the same abroad, as a DL card, a double length card. Basically, it's double the length that it is from the width. So normally they would have gone like this way, so that way, like tall cards. And it fits a standard DL envelope that we can get in the UK, which measures just over 8.5 inches by 4.25, just over 4.25. Not quite sure how much that is in centimetres, because I've made the card in centimetres, but I've got the inches in brackets, so I will be able to tell you what those are. Yes, it's just a standard, I don't know, business type envelope, obviously a white one, not a nasty one with a window in it. Yes, so I really love this card because inside it's a pop-up. I'm just going to stand up for a sec just so I know you can see this. So, yep, they're all standing up there, look. I saw something similar to this, not with the pandas, but something similar to this with the little pop-ups there on stage. It might have been November, can't remember now, it might have been April, I guess, but one of the on stages I've been to. And I think it's really lovely, and I've got a sister who adores pandas, so I'm sure she'll be snaffling this off me as soon as she sees it. Yeah, so they're all just sort of stuck on with a little bit of wet glue. This is raised up on dimensionals as well. This is using the Tailor Tag Punch, which I've got right here. And then what I did is I punched it, I stamped it first, and again you've got the gold embossing there, and then I punched it out, and then I punched out the raspberry colour, which is what this is, rich raspberry, this red purpley colour. Cut it in half to create that sort of like layer there. And this is beautiful. This is in the current catalogue, so if you would like to see it and you'd like to order it, do let me know. If you live in the UK, do let me know and I can get it for you. It's called, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it, and I can't see it. Oh yeah, Glitter Organdy Ribbon, and it's beautiful. It's sheer, you can see through it, but it's really glittery and it's lovely. Anybody like me who's a bit of a magpie will adore this ribbon. So there you go. So that's not the card I'm making today though. I made this and I thought to myself, I've got a stamp set that's going to make a Christmas version of this. And if you've been watching my other YouTube videos just recently, you'll know that I am totally in love with the Santa's Workshop suite, which is also in the current catalogue. It's actually not the current catalogue, it's a new catalogue coming out on the 5th of September, so next week. If you'd like a copy, let me know. Again, if you're in the UK, I can send you out a copy. And this is the card I made. So I've got Father Christmas with his list on there. It says wishing you everything on your list and more. And inside we've got some dancing elves. So there we are. So I've just stamped some little images from the stamp set there and raised that up on the seal. And the stamp set, if you want to see it, is this one, Signs of Santa, and it comes with its own DSP. I'm just going to bring you the paper that I've used for these guys, because I didn't, obviously you could stamp these, but what I did is I cut them out from the DSP because they actually fit the dies. I've got them all here ready for the next one that I'm going to do. And this is the frame that dies, and you get lots and lots of shapes in there, so you can cut out the signpost, you know, the traditional North Pole signpost. There's these lovely star things which aren't actually on here, but I'll show you on the paper, little labels. And yeah, it's a great little set to have. It comes as a bundle. You'll get 10% off the total price of the 2 items if you were to order it at the moment or next week. So this is some of the designer paper, and as you can see, I have chopped it to pieces, which killed me because it's beautiful, that lovely flock that I mentioned in a previous video as well. And you just want to sort of like just touch it. And I've got a thing about touchy-feely things. The children, when I go to the library, my grandchildren, I always get them books that's got like the little fuzzy bits on them because I just like to touch them. Anyway, so as you can see, I have massacred those 2 sheets. I've even used the border trim round here. If I go back to the card, refer back to the card for a minute, that's this border just here. I'm going to do it again. I've actually cut another piece off here, but I've left the stitching on this time, so I'm going to be using that on the card I'm about to make. So I think it's about time we got started. Enough chat from me. I've got some blenders here to do some colouring, which you probably won't see because I don't want to make it too long, this video. So I made this one using Real Red and Smoky Slate, but the new one I'm going to be making, she says, looking around her, is Coastal Cabana, which is a new one of the new colours. Well, it's kind of like an old colour that came back. I wasn't a Stampin' Up demonstrator when this was out before, but I heard lots of people say how much they loved it, and it's a gorgeous colour. So I'm going to jazz that up with some red, and then I've got a couple of pieces of white. I'll tell you what these measurements are. So I'm just going to sit down now so I can get on with my making. So basically you've got the Coastal Cabana or your base card, whichever you want, and that's been cut to 21 centimetres square, and in inches that's 8 1/4 by 8 1/4, and then it's been scored down the middle to create that DL card, and the score line is at 10 1/2 centimetres or 4 1/4. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a little burnish while I'm doing this as I go along. So that's that bit, and then like I said, the panel for the front is, the red panel here for the front is Real Red, and that is cut at, what the layer is, 20 centimetres by 9 1/2 centimetres, which is 7 7/8 by 3 3/4, and that will create a nice little, so you can actually see some of that beautiful, what would you call that, green? Blue? I'd call it like a greeny colour, but I guess other people would see it as blue. And then this white panel, which is going to go on top, is going to create a smaller border like that. And this white panel is 19 1/2 centimetres by 9 centimetres, or 7 5/8 of an inch by 3 1/2 inches. So that's those 2 pieces, and then this is going to be the bit inside. This is your mechanism bit that I'm going to be doing next, and that measures, where is that, 20 centimetres square, or 7 7/8 by 7 7/8, and then the score line, if I turn it around this way, the score line is at 10 centimetres or 3 15/16. Now if you're lucky enough to have a trimmer like I have that goes right down into the 16ths, you'll be fine, but it's basically, it's kind of like between the 7/8 mark and the next inch. So this one would be, where was it again? Yeah, so it'd be just short of 4 inches, but a little bit more than 3 7/8. So I hope that makes sense. And then obviously you'll score that. Now I've turned this round, I've actually pre-done this part. What I've done is, if I just fold that now, and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, so there's a pencil line to about 2 centimetres, which in inches is about 3/4 of an inch from the fold line, just a very faint pencil line, which we'll rub out at the end. And then I've come in about 1 3/4 centimetres. I hate centimetres, I prefer inches, I'm old. Which is just, what's that, about 5, excuse, that's not my phone, that's my tablet, which is off to one side there. That's 1 2 3 5/8 of an inch in from each end, and then it's a 1 1/2 centimetres measurements to put a little pencil line, which is just about 1/2 an inch. If you do a little bit of fiddling, because it's not quite, because I've made this in centimetres not in inches, it's going to be slightly off if you're using inches. I know I've got a some subscribers who come from the USA and Canada. I don't know how Canada does their measurements, but I know the USA, they prefer the inches. So yeah, just work it out for yourself. I mean, I just sat there and worked out because my card is a different size to the one that Jill did on her tutorial. Anyway, enough chat. Let's get making. So what I'm going to do is just cut up to that score line at each of those marks. I want to make sure it's actually on the score line. I think these scissors probably need resharpening because I just use them constantly and they don't go right to the tip. Normally these, because they're quite a point on them, as you can see. I punctured my thumb earlier. Yeah, it should be able to, but they sort of stop before the end, so I'm just going to add that little bit. And it looks like it's going to be too small. You're thinking, oh my gosh, those lines are so close together. But every other one is going to be folded back, so that makes a little bit of room. And the last one. Okay. Yeah, so you take the second one in and just bring it back and just press it down. And then try to make it as straight as possible. My ones aren't quite straight, it's better. And then just every other one, just pull back, press down. Oh gosh, I've torn the card there. I'll have to be careful of that. Get a little bit too carried away there. Press down. Okay, so once you've done all of them, then you can fold them the other way, because these are going to be sort of folding back on to create that little pop out part. That's the bit that's torn, so be careful of that one. Okay, and then before we go any further, we'll just have that pencil line rubbed out. That's it. And then open it out and then just pop it through. Every other one, just pop it through. And when you close, as you close, it will start to create this ladder effect. There we go. So being aware that that's torn just there, I should just very gently, you just need to press out all those folds now. That's it. Okay, and there's your mechanism. So if I put it that way, it won't notice quite so much where the little tear line is. Okay, so that's that bit. So put that off to one side. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in the rest of the card, and I'm just going to do the stamping on the front. Now, I've always used stamps like freehand, but since getting this little baby, I use this all the time now, and this is the Stamparatus, and that's just to keep my sponge mat from getting too dirty. So I think we'll just turn that around like that, and pop that in. Now I've usually got pencil lines everywhere to help me remember where everything's going, so I'll just put that one in there to remind me that's where the card, in case the card moves, because the photopolymer stamps are quite tacky because they're brand new, and they tend to pull the paper up as well as the card up as well as when you sort of put them on the cover here. Okie doke, so I think I'm going to use the same sentiment as before. So wishing you everything on your list, and I'm just going to pop it off centre just briefly, and then the other part, which is make sure it's up the right way, and more. So let's make that fairly straight there. What I'm going to do, the plate here has got grid lines on it, so I'll be able to see how straight or not straight it is in a second. See what I mean about it sticking to the card. I'm just going to hoik that off and have a look at that. Alright, that one's fairly straight, that one's a little bit crooked. That's it. Okay, and then to protect my plate, because it's quite high up from the worktop, I'm just going to use the stamp case just to give it a little bit of stability. And I'm going to be using Memento Black. The photopolymer stamps, if you use coloured ink on them, they will stain, but providing you clean them properly, it won't transfer. They'll just be looking a bit stained. I've got some that are really dark pink where I've used them in the past so many times. And then I've just got a little bit of a almost dry baby wipe here. I'm just going to take off. Oh, look, it's been near the bin. Okay, that is dry, so I think I have to get a clean one out in a sec. So we'll just take that off of there for a sec, pop it back. I'll just pop it on top for now. I'll put them away later, but I want them inside the case where I can see them. Okay, so that's almost all the stamping. I've got some others mounted up on blocks, which we'll do in a second. So I'll put that away temporarily. I might get it out again, I can't remember. Okay, so there we are. So that's that bit. And then when you get Father Christmas and Mrs. Christmas, they will go there and there. Okay, but before I do, I thought this one looked quite plain on the corners. So I'm just going to reach for another stamp set. Eastern Beauty. Now there's got a stamp in here that I use all the time, and that's this one here, this little speckly one here, and I just love what it just makes the corners of a card look so much nicer when it's looking a little bit plain. As you can see, I'll just lay it down there. As you can see, it looks very pink, but that's just where it's been stained over a long time that I've been using it. So I'm just going to borrow one of these blocks for a sec, pop that on there. And I'm not going to use black on this one. I think I will go for the Coastal Cabana. That'll go with the same as the card base. All right, so just ink it up. And then I'm just going to pop it into the corner. It'll go over the edge onto the paper. Like that. It just creates a little tiny bit of interest on the corner of the card. Stops it looking quite so plain. And then finally this one. That was a little bit off, as you can see there's a little white bit on the corner there. I'm not going to do it again though. Right, let's just close this up. I've got a habit of getting ink all over my fingers. And I'm just going to grab a baby wipe real quick. I will clean the stamps properly later. Just to take the ink off of that block, because I'm going to use the block again in a second. That's it. So I'll just pop that on top of my Eastern Palace, which is somewhere. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is, over the side there. Okay. Righty-ho, let's just dry that off. Right, so that's that part done. And the next bit, I need my dimension of that. Oops, a daisy. A little sneak peek there of the inks, the pens I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to use the mini dimensionals just to pop up onto the back of Father Christmas. Now if I'd have stamped him out and then coloured him in, he'd be a little bit more stable, but he's with the designer paper is quite thick, but I don't want it to bend too much, so I'm going to use plenty just to make sure that they don't sort of sag in the middle. And I'm using the tweezers because even though I've got nice long fingernails at the moment, I'm a little bit cack-handed. That's well, I don't know if it's a British expression, but we use it in my family because it's what I am. A little bit. I was born left-handed, and then my parents thought that I might be a bit disadvantaged using my left hand. This is like a long time ago. And so they got me to be right-handed, and although I am now right-handed, some of the things I do tend to be a little bit back to front. Alright, so that's that. So I'm just going to take all those bits off now. Oh my gosh, I don't know my own strength, do I? I didn't have this trouble when I made the sample card. That's because I'm trying to rush it so that I don't take too much of your time up watching this. Let's get rid of those. Funny story, my son, my youngest son, still lives at home, and he came in to me recently and he said to me, Mum, I keep finding these little weird hexagonal pieces of paper. Do you know anything about it? I went, no, not me. He still doesn't realise it's me. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that on there. And really I should have mounted this up on the other card first, but it doesn't really matter. So as you can see, the corners look so much, although that's all mounted up now, the corners do look more interesting with that little speckle in the corner there. Okay, let's get this onto the red card. So I'm going to need some Tombow glue. This is like wet glue, like PVA glue, and it is fantastic. I use it all the time, which is why my bottles are usually virtually empty. Okay, so that'll do. You don't need too much, it's just really just to give it a little bit of chance to move around, because I don't always get it spot on first time, although I did that time. Okay, so that's that bit. Okay, and then we'll stick them to the front. Let's see, show you what it looks going to look like. It looks great, doesn't it? Oh, I think so anyway. Okay, so the red's a little bit thicker than the white is, so a little bit more glue. And then this one's got a slightly larger border. There we go. I'm just going to, I won't press it all the way along because obviously I've got Father Christmas and Mrs. Christmas there, but I just want to make sure that sticks down in the middle. That's lovely. Okay, so that's the front done. And then the inside, if we go back to that little mechanism thing that we made, what I'm going to do is, on the last one, this is after I cut it, I'm just going to flatten it down like that. So I did this, just stamped them in and then just coloured them, but this time, if I find my little group of guys here, the presents, I noticed after I'd done it that the presents actually have a little die, and that fits the designer paper too. So I cut them out because they've got the little fuzzy bits on the red. So that's rather cute. So I'm still going to use the little wagon and the stamps, as the stamp for the presents. And I'm just going to roughly use my grid paper here just to work out, that's roughly the middle here then. So I'm going to do the same as the other one, so that'll be three stamped lots of presents, the wagon with the nice presents actually on top. So I'm going back to my Memento black. You can use, this is the ink pad you need to use if you're using the blends, which I will be, the Stampin' blends, because they're alcohol based. So I'm just going to create freehand, I'm just going to create a kind of arc like that, and then pop the little wagon in between like that. Right, so I need to give that a minute just to dry because I don't want to smudge it before when I start colouring it. So at the bottom I'm going to put on, if I can find it, that strip of paper that I cut. Now I thought I left it to the side here, but I cannot see it. Oh, that's annoying, isn't it? I just hate it when something decides to walk, oh look, it's at the top, decides to walk off. Okay, so let's grab my scissors and just cut one end straight, because it just so happens that these scallops actually fit perfectly without having to cut one in half. So that will go on here like this. So let's get some glue on. Let's move it off to one side, save that for another project. You can use either the Tombow, or if you've got double-sided tape if it's narrow, or you can use can't think what it's called, the really fine tip glue pen. Fine tip glue pen, but it takes me ages to get the needle back in, so I won't do that on camera. If you don't have the fine tip glue pen but you like the idea of that glue, basically I found out recently it's Glossy Accents, which I do have from my pre-Stampin' Up days, and I do use occasionally. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this down to the bottom, hopefully you can see it, and about an inch up, place that end and that end, and that's it. And all those little dots on those scallops there, they're all fuzzy as well. Right, that should be dry enough now to colour in. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause the camera while I colour in, and I'll come back to you in a moment. Okay, I'm back again. So as you can see, I've just coloured in the wagons there and the presents, and I'm leaving the presents like with the red and white stripe to match the beautiful paper, which I might just drag out in a moment just to quickly show you. And I've put dimensionals on the back of these, and I'm just going to make them sort of like be half falling out of these wagons. Oh, I didn't need 3. Just realised I did 3 and I didn't really need them. So like that. So I'll save that for something else then. Let's move those out of the way. And then it's time to just pop those back again. Let's make sure I get this one right now. I'm going to close that, so that's going to be out, 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 out. That's it. Alright. As you can see, the blender pens do go through the cards, so it's best to have a worktop to cover for your worktop there. So I think before I go any further, I'm now going to stick that into my card. So I'll do the base part first. Again, you don't have to use wet glue. I only use wet glue because it gives me that little bit of chance to move if I have not matched it up to how I want it. I think my glue is just about running out now. That'll do. Okay, so hopefully, yep. Now I'll try and pull this back so you can see, but I want to also tuck it right into the corner part, so I'm just going to lift that up a little bit. Get that about even. Oh, it's starting to stick already, so let's make sure it's even. That's it. And then I'm just going to put my finger between those little things in there, just hold it down, and then we'll do the top bit. Hopefully there'll be enough to last this card. I'll just leave it stored upside down and see if I can get the last dregs out the bottom. Okay. I'll just fold that down. There we are. So there we are, it's coming along nicely now. And I'm going to do the little tag bit first, just move these little guys out of the way. And I've got the seal, the Father Christmas seal, which is wherever this stamp set's gone. This seal here, it says the official seal of the North Pole, and it's got SC in it for Santa Claus. It's a shame it hasn't got FC, because Father Christmas is how we refer to him in the UK, but never mind. So I just need some scrap. I think that's going to be big enough. Okay. And I'll just bring out my black ink again. Okay, I'm just going to give that an extra. Make sure it's up the right way, although it doesn't really match at this stage. I'm not sure that's going to be big enough. I think I'll just get another piece. Got another piece handy. Okay. And that's that. That's gone very nice. Let's get the lid on there. So the tailor to tag punch, and that just fits in nicely like that. Make sure it's right in the middle. And then I will do, what shall I do? Shall I do Coastal Cabana or red? I think I did red on the last one, so I think I'll do the Coastal Cabana. I've got a smaller piece, yes I do. A smaller piece. In fact, I'll punch out both, and then I can decide which one I like the best. Okay. Now then, do I want that one, or do I want that one? I think the red. I'm just going to cut it in half lengthways. It doesn't have to be accurate, perfectly accurate. And then, oh, here we go again. I wish I could just do it like that. I'll have to stick it in. So I've got a little pot there. I'll stick it in Okay, make sure I've got the right end here. And just make sure that's meeting at the edges at either end. That's that, that's one. Well, that seemed to work, leaving it upside down. Put it back in there. Okay, so that's that. So you've got a little gap in the middle there. And then you want your larger dimensionals this time, only so you don't have to use quite so many. I'll put one at each end. One up and one down. Okay, and then again I'm just going to offer this up to make sure that it goes direct right in the middle, so it's about there. There we are. It's a bit shadowy, I might have to put the light on in a minute, even though it's still broad daylight out there. The daylight isn't lasting as well as it used to, because obviously it's coming to the end of the summer now. Okay, so the last thing to do is pop these little guys on. So yet again the old Tombow, I'm just going to do a little blob of glue on the front of each of these little bits that stick out. Like that. And then to make them fit, because they are a little bit on the wide side, I'm just going to do them dancing like I did with the pandas. I'll move that over a little bit, that's it, oops. And then just alternate their colours here. That's it, and then just press it down. That's it, they haven't moved. So there we are, an unusual card, a bit different to the normal ones because like I said they are the DL sized. So, and I mean you can make them any size you wanted to really. I'll pop this one back in just briefly just to show you again. Yeah, you can make them any size really, it's just that I happen to have a bunch of those envelopes and I thought, right, I'll make the cards fit then. And I remember using cards like this years ago when I was crafting. So I hope you like the cards. Just very, very quickly, if I can do this without banging and crashing too much, I'll just pull out that DSP so that if you haven't seen it, you'll see what I mean by being very luxurious. So this is the pack here. And as you can see, I've used some already. I made some lovely boxes using this one, and this is this candy stripe, but all that white is all flocked. And the only sheet that doesn't have flocking on is the sheet that's got the little elves on. And I love spots, so look at that. So if I've got a snowman there, it's all flocked on one side, so the other side's plain. That's the sheet that doesn't have the flocking on. And then, oh, that one hasn't got it either. There you go, got another one there. And then that's that red again, with the lovely bows on the back. And then this one is where I got the Mrs. Christmas from and the little guys and the edging. And there's a snowman again, it's somewhere in here. There he is, Father Christmas again with the elves on there as well. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful paper. Definitely going to be buying some more before it's too late. I want to make sure I've got plenty to last me. I've got 4 young grandchildren, aged 7, 5, 3 and 1, just about, in a couple of days time. And yeah, so they're going to be getting everything made with that, all their cards and probably little gift boxes and things made with that. So there we are, beautiful. I think it's lovely. I mean, I love cutesy, so I hope you do too. Thank you for watching. I'd like to say a special thank you and welcome to my new subscribers. I've had quite a few in the last 5 or 6 days, so thank you for joining me, and yeah, very grateful for your interest. Like I said, if you're in the UK and you would like any of this stuff and you've not had it before, you don't have a demonstrator, I would love to be able to send you out a catalogue, have orders from you, join my team. I'm Crafty Little Miss K, like I said. I've got a Crafty Little Folk team. I've got Miss B Crafty. I've got Mr. I've forgotten what his name was now. He did say it because he only joined recently. Anyway, yes, I've got a group of people now, so would love to have you on my team if you're not already a demonstrator. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the cards. And yeah, it's a bit early to say Merry Christmas, but yeah, get crafting. Bye for now.